You played with George and Andrew for a while? Or
Not that long. When I was at school, and what happened was we made the first record.
Yeah.
And
now, you were telling me you were the lead singer, weren't you?
Well,
or
he asked me to be.
Okay.
He asked me, well, what happened? It was kind of strange. We ended up making this record, and the way Andrew Ridgely tells it in one book, though I haven't read the other book, I'm not sure where you'd find it, but he said that I nearly got everybody killed in the van on the way to their first ever recording session because I wanted to come. Part of the reason
and he's a pilot
and a race car driver,
and a race car driver,
and a race car driver.
But I think I might believe that version.
Yeah.
So what happened was, you see, what attracted them maybe to me. I mean, part of it was that Gav and I had a van,
right.
Right. I mean, how many people have ended up in bands
because they had a vehicle?
Because many, or a PA system.
Yeah, I had a PA
you have
system.
A PA, you're in the band.
You're in the band. Actually, it's very similar to how I actually ended up playing with the band in France that I eventually went to.
Well, the guy needed a ride, but that's another story.
Yeah. The guy needed a ride to the south of France. So anyway, so that's how I got in that band without an audition. So because I had the car. So
well, I know you're jumping ahead though.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, because
so we had this meeting.
You were killing Andrew softly.
Yes. So what happened was we went to record the first record, and it was a thing called Rude Boys, and it was this awful ska thing, and I've not managed to find anywhere on the internet of a recording of it, but it went to Rude Boys, Rude Boys, Rude Boys. It's like, get on with it. Right? This is crap. So George goes, well, how do you think we should do this? I said, well, it needs an intro. Right, and there was Madness, and there was a band I think called Pig Bag or something in the UK. There was this sort of really raunchy, almost out of tune, almost amateur sort of style, which was sort of endearing,
right?
Style to the brass.
Yeah,
and I could do amateur on the saxophone. So I suggest, well, why don't you put a saxophone solo on it? You see all these things keep jumping into. So I wrote this saxophone solo. I says, the way you need to start this song is me, 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 me. It's not too different from a certain other saxophone intro. But that's how that intro went. You see, everything's derivative.
Right.
And
he stole it.
He's, oh yeah, that'll work. I go, that's great. So I'd heard the tape, and I'd obviously listened to it at the wrong speed, the cassette he'd made of a demo. Because we got to the studio, and it's like, I can't play that in that key. Like, that's like, I got to have 4 thumbs to get to. This is horrible. It's like the equivalent of C sharp.
On a sax.
On the sax. So I go like, oh, so how are we going to do this? And then I used a trick. I says, well, can you slow the tape down a semitone? And now it'd be slower, so it'll be easier for me to play. It'll actually affect the tone of the saxophone, and I'll play the intro a semitone lower. And that's what I did on the original Rude Boys demo. And we'll come back to what you were asking me a second ago. Only 2 weeks ago, I was reading up, because we'd had a chat about all this stuff, and so start researching like weird stuff to do with Careless Whisper, and you've got all this story about Muscle Shoals or whatever it's called, the studio I went to in the States where he hated it,
right,
and brought it back and went through 12 saxophone players or whatever. The last saxophone player that actually did the recording of Careless Whisper, it turns out, pulled exactly the same trick.
Oh, they made him slow down half of it?
He had them slow down the tape a semitone so that he could play on a tenor saxophone, something where you needed actually to go into a different range, a different key, and it didn't phrase right. It was hard to play. So he had them slow the tape down, I think a semitone, so that he could play the intro for Careless Whisper on the tenor saxophone, but it's in a different key, and you could get the phrasing much easier because it flows better rather than cross-fingering all this. If you when you play a saxophone, you get into some keys where you can't make phrases flow because it's just too much clattering and clicking and cross-fingering going on to make it work. But if you can play in certain simple keys, it flows much better.
Sure.
So that's why this guy managed to make the intro of Careless Whisper in a way that then George Michael came back to the studio, because he wasn't actually in the studio when this guy recorded it. He just got called in on a session to do it. He comes in, he goes, that's what I've been looking for all along. But it turns out
that's funny
that he pulled...
What comes around goes around.
He pulled exactly the same trick for that. Maybe he should have called me in to do the intro. And that's maybe what was in his head to start with. That was like, that was the sort of phrasing that had come from that somewhere in his head. He wanted it to sound that way, and it did when you played in the keys that would flow and phrase that much better. So he probably didn't even remember that I had done that trick. I'd forgotten completely that I'd done that trick, because I was reading up on it and I was going like, wow, that is really funny. The two songs one was his first ever demo, first time he'd set foot in a recording studio.
Yeah.
I did that. And his first huge hit, that also happened with the saxophone player. It's kind of weird how these things